Why do I suddenly have a British accent? I woke up asking for tea and crumpets in an accent that belonged in Downton Abbey, not Detroit General Hospital. Pardon me, but might I trouble you for some Earl Grey? The words floated out of my mouth like I'd been born in bloody Buckinghamshire instead of Boise, Idaho. The recovery nurse, Janet, according to her badge, nearly dropped her clipboard. Honey, you asked for a Coke Zero about 6 hours ago in the most American accent I've ever heard. 6 hours ago, I was Sarah Mitchell, 28-year-old marketing executive who said you guys unironically and pronounced ant like ant. 6 hours ago, I'd gone under for what my surgeon cheerfully called the most routine gallbladder removal you'll ever have. Now I sounded like I should be hosting a BBC documentary about Victorian gardens. I'm terribly sorry, but I haven't the faintest idea what you mean. Even my apology came out dripping with more refinement than I'd possessed in my entire life. Though I must say, I do feel rather peckish. Perhaps something with proper butter? Janet backed away slowly, like I might start speaking in tongues next. I'm calling Dr. Patterson. 27 minutes later, I'd been watching the clock, trying to will myself back to normal. Dr. Patterson arrived with 2 colleagues and the kind of furrowed brow that meant I was about to become someone's very interesting case study. Sarah, I need you to tell me your full name and today's date. Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell, and it's Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. The facts came out correctly, but wrapped in an accent so posh it could cut glass. Though I must confess, I'm rather concerned about this extraordinary change in my speech patterns. The 3 doctors exchanged glances. Dr. Patterson pulled up a chair. Have you ever traveled to the UK? Lived there? Studied abroad? Never. The furthest east I've been is Chicago for a conference last spring. I paused, horrified by how my Midwestern city came out sounding like Chaucer H. Doctor, what's happened to me? I sound like I've been knighted. We're going to run some tests, he said carefully. There are documented cases of foreign accent syndrome following medical procedures, though they're extremely rare. Usually linked to stroke or brain injury, but your gallbladder surgery was nowhere near your neural pathways. Foreign accent syndrome. At least it had a name. By Wednesday morning, I'd been poked, prodded, and scanned by every neurologist in the tri-state area. My brain looked perfectly normal. My blood work was textbook. According to every test known to modern medicine, Sarah Mitchell was fine, except for the minor detail that she now spoke like she'd graduated from Oxford with honors and being insufferably proper. The worst part? I had to go back to work on Thursday. Back to Pinnacle Marketing, where my boss Marcus Jen had spent the last 3 years making my life miserable while stealing credit for every successful campaign I'd created. The man who told our biggest client that my basic American presentation style was holding the account back. The same Marcus who'd mimicked my Idaho accent during last month's staff meeting, drawing laughs from half the office. I stared at myself in the hospital bathroom mirror, practicing normal American phrases. Hey, how's it going? Came out as good day, how are you faring? That's awesome, became how absolutely marvelous. I was so screwed. Thursday morning arrived like a death sentence wrapped in Egyptian cotton, even my metaphors had gone posh. I sat in my Honda Civic outside Pinnacle Marketing's glass monstrosity of a building, gripping the steering wheel and practicing my elevator pitch for the Morrison Industries account I'd been developing for 6 months. Morrison Industries represents a paradigmatic shift in sustainable manufacturing. I stopped mid-sentence, wanting to scream. Even paradigmatic sounded pretentious in this accent. Marcus would have a field day. My phone buzzed with a text from my cubicle neighbor Jenny. * Marcus has been telling everyone you're going to do a special presentation about your medical situation. He's invited the whole floor. 9 a.m. conference room *. My stomach dropped faster than British pound sterling during Brexit. I hadn't told anyone except HR about the accent. I called in sick Tuesday and Wednesday while getting medical clearance to return. Somehow Marcus had found out, and now he was setting me up for public humiliation. I checked my reflection one more time. Same brown hair, same unremarkable features, but something about the way I held myself had changed. My posture was straighter, my expression more composed. If I was going down, I'd go down with dignity, even if it was involuntary, neurologically induced dignity. The elevator ride to the 14th floor felt like ascending to my own execution. When the doors opened, I could hear Marcus's voice booming from the conference room. Complete personality overhaul after a simple surgery. It's honestly fascinating from a psychological perspective. 23 people had crammed into the room that normally held 12. I recognized faces from accounting, creative, even some senior partners I'd only seen in company newsletters. Marcus stood at the head of the table like a circus ringmaster, his expensive suit immaculate as always, his perfectly styled black hair catching the morning light. Ah, Sarah. He gestured grandly as I entered. Ladies and gentlemen, I present our very own medical mystery. Sarah, would you mind saying hello to everyone? The room fell silent. 23 pairs of eyes locked onto me like I was about to perform a magic trick. In the back corner, Jenny looked mortified. Near the window, senior partner Patricia Wells sat with her arms crossed, clearly annoyed at having her morning hijacked for Marcus's entertainment. Good morning, everyone. The words came out crisp and refined, each syllable perfectly enunciated. A few people gasped. Someone in the back snickered. Marcus's grin widened like a shark scenting blood. Incredible, isn't it? Tuesday morning, she sounded like she was from a corn maze in Iowa. Idaho, I corrected, the word dripping with more sophistication than any state deserved. Right, Idaho. Now listen to her. It's like Madonna circa 2005, but with actual commitment to the bit. The room erupted in uncomfortable laughter. Sarah, tell us about your weekend plans. Really lean into it. Heat crept up my neck, but something strange happened. Instead of shrinking into myself like I normally would, I felt my spine straighten further. My chin lifted slightly. Maybe it was the accent, or maybe it was 3 years of stored rage, but suddenly I felt powerful. Well, Marcus, I was rather hoping to discuss the Morrison Industries proposal. You know, the sustainable manufacturing account worth approximately $2.3 million annually? I smiled sweetly. The one Mr. Morrison specifically requested I present to his board next Tuesday, after seeing my preliminary work. Marcus's smirk faltered. I'm sorry, what? Oh dear, did I forget to mention? Mr. Morrison rang yesterday afternoon. Lovely man. We had quite the extensive chat about British sustainability initiatives. He's particularly keen on working with our, how did he put it, internationally sophisticated team. The room had gone dead quiet. Even Patricia Wells was leaning forward now. I was about to discover just how dangerous a posh accent could be. The truth was, Morrison Industries hadn't called at all. But something about the way those perfectly articulated lies rolled off my tongue made them sound absolutely believable. Marcus's face had gone through several shades of confusion before settling on a sickly green. When did Morrison call? I'm the primary on that account. Are you indeed? I tilted my head with a kind of polite condescension that could level buildings. How curious. Mr. Morrison seemed to be under the impression that I was the lead creative. He mentioned being rather impressed with the sustainability framework I drafted, you know, the one you declared too niche for American markets last month. Patricia Wells cleared her throat. Sarah, are you saying Morrison Industries requested you specifically? My heart hammered against my ribs, but my voice remained steady as a BBC newsreader. Oh yes. He was quite explicit about it. Apparently, they've been looking for an agency with more international perspective. Something about expanding into European markets requiring a more sophisticated approach. The lie grew bigger with each word, but Marcus had backed me into this corner. 3 years of watching him present my ideas as his own, 3 years of being dismissed as too provincial for high-end clients, 3 years of being treated like small-town window dressing. The accent might be fake neurological mystery, but my anger was absolutely genuine. In fact, I continued, reaching into my purse with theatrical precision. He mentioned wanting to discuss a rather substantial expansion of their initial budget. Something closer to 4.2 million over 18 months. Jenny's eyes went wide. Someone in accounting actually whispered holy shit under their breath. Marcus stepped forward, his composure cracking. Sarah, I think you might be confused. The Morrison account is mine. Patricia Wells's voice cut through the room like a judicial gavel. She stood slowly, her silver hair catching the fluorescent lights. If Morrison Industries specifically requested Sarah, then Sarah will be taking point on the presentation. The conference room erupted in whispered conversations. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped with a wet fish, a phrase that definitely hadn't existed in my vocabulary before Tuesday, but somehow felt perfectly natural now. Patricia, with all due respect, Sarah just had major surgery. She's clearly not thinking straight. Marcus gestured at me like I was an exotic zoo animal. I mean, listen to her. This is obviously some kind of psychological episode. Foreign accent syndrome is literally a brain disorder. A brain disorder that apparently makes her more appealing to international clients, Patricia replied dryly. Interesting how that works. The room fell silent again. I realized this was my moment. I could retreat, apologize for the lies, and go back to being Marcus's verbal punching bag, or I could lean into this beautiful disaster I'd created. Actually, Mr. Morrison suggested we schedule a video conference for this afternoon at 2 o'clock. He's rather eager to move forward. I checked my watch with practiced elegance. I do hope that won't be a problem. Marcus's mouth opened and closed like a confused goldfish. You can't just. Patricia, she's making this up. Morrison doesn't even know her name. Then I suppose we'll find out at 2 o'clock, won't we? Patricia gathered her papers with sharp efficiency. Sarah, my office at 1:30. We'll review your materials before the call. As the room began to empty, Marcus cornered me near the door. His usually perfect composure had completely shattered, revealing something desperate and ugly underneath. What the hell do you think you're doing? He hissed. I smiled with newfound confidence that definitely hadn't come from any medical procedure. Why, Marcus, I haven't the foggiest idea what you mean. 3 hours to figure out how to make James Morrison call me back. I had exactly 3 hours to turn my elaborate lie into reality, and I was starting to panic in the most refined way possible. Bloody hell, I muttered, then immediately felt mortified. Even my swearing had gone posh. Back at my cubicle, I pulled up everything I had on Morrison Industries. The truth was, I'd been developing their account proposal for 6 months. Marcus wasn't completely wrong about being the primary contact, but he'd never bothered to actually work on the creative strategy. That had been entirely my project, right down to the sustainability framework he dismissed as too European for their tastes. My hands shook as I scrolled through my research. Morrison Industries was a $800 million manufacturing conglomerate based in Cleveland, but they'd been making noise about expanding internationally. Their CEO, James Morrison, was 54, Stanford MBA, and according to LinkedIn, had spent 2 years working in London in the early 2000s. That was something, at least. I found his direct office number buried in a trade publication interview from last year. Before I could lose my nerve, I dialed. Morrison Industries, Mr. Morrison's office. Good afternoon. This is Sarah Mitchell from Pinnacle Marketing. I wonder if I might have a brief word with Mr. Morrison regarding his sustainability initiative. There was a pause. I'm sorry, I don't have you on his calendar today. My accent seemed to be working some kind of magic, because the assistant's tone had shifted from dismissive to intrigued. I do apologize for the short notice, but we've had some rather exciting developments regarding the European market expansion proposal. Mr. Morrison had expressed interest in reviewing our international perspective. Another pause. Hold please. 90 seconds felt like 90 years. Then a gruff voice came on the line. This is Jim Morrison. Who am I talking to? Mr. Morrison, this is Sarah Mitchell from Pinnacle Marketing. I've been developing the sustainability framework for your potential campaign, and I wanted to discuss some opportunities that have emerged regarding your European expansion plans. European expansion? Look, Miss Mitchell, was it? I think there might be some confusion. We haven't made any decisions about European anything. My heart sank, but something about his tone told me he wasn't entirely close to the idea. Of course not, sir. That's precisely why I'm ringing. I've been researching sustainable manufacturing trends in the UK market, and I believe Morrison Industries could capture significant market share with the right positioning strategy. You're British? I closed my eyes. I have extensive experience with British markets, yes sir. Huh. You know, I spent some time in London back in the day. Worked with a consulting firm there for 2 years. Always thought about going back, but never found the right opportunity. He paused. What kind of market share are we talking about? I pulled up every piece of research I'd compiled over the past 6 months. Based on current sustainability trends and manufacturing regulations, I estimate Morrison Industries could capture approximately 12 to 15% of the UK sustainable packaging market within 18 months. That translates to roughly 60 to 75 million in revenue potential. The line went quiet. I held my breath. That's a significant projection. You have data backing that up? Absolutely. In fact, I prepared a comprehensive analysis that factors in Brexit trade regulations, EU environmental standards, and emerging green technology incentives. Would you be available for a video conference this afternoon to review the preliminary findings? This afternoon? Jesus, you Brits don't waste time, do you? I almost choked. We prefer to strike while the iron is hot, as they say. All right, Miss Mitchell. You've got my attention. 2 o'clock work for you? 2 o'clock would be perfect, Mr. Morrison. And Sarah? This better be as good as you're making it sound. I don't like having my time wasted. The line went dead. I sat staring at my phone, hardly believing what had just happened. Then Jenny appeared at my cubicle, eyes wide with excitement. Sarah, you have to see this. You're famous. Jenny thrust her phone at me with the kind of manic energy reserved for lottery winners and people who discovered their cats can speak. Look at this. Someone recorded Marcus's little circus act this morning and posted it on TikTok. You've gone viral. I stared at the screen. There I was, standing in the conference room looking composed and dignified while Marcus made a fool of himself. The caption read, Boss tries to humiliate employee with medical condition. Watch her destroy him with pure class nail polish sparkles. Boss gets owned. British Sarah. Accent queen. The video had 847,000 views. In 3 hours. Jenny, this is a disaster. Are you kidding? Read the comments. She scrolled frantically. This woman is iconic. Imagine trying to embarrass someone and making them famous instead. That accent could cure my depression. Sarah, you have fan accounts already. My phone started buzzing. Instagram notifications flooded my lock screen faster than I could process them. Somehow, someone had found my social media accounts. My follower count was climbing in real time, 2,847. 2,901, 3,156. This is insane. I sat down heavily, still processing the surreal turn my life had taken. I just wanted to survive Marcus's humiliation show. Well, you did more than survive. You basically became the internet's new obsession. Jenny pulled up another video. Look, this one has 1.2 million views. Someone made a remix of you saying how absolutely marvelous to a dubstep beat. Before I could respond, my work phone rang. The caller ID made my stomach lurch. Pinnacle Marketing, Sarah Mitchell speaking. Is this the young woman from the video? The one with the gorgeous British accent? The voice was warm, professional, distinctly American. Yes? May I ask who's calling? This is Rebecca Thornton from Thornton & Associates Public Relations. We represent several major international brands, and we've been watching your situation with great interest. Would you be available to discuss some potential opportunities? I looked at Jenny, who was practically vibrating with excitement. What kind of opportunities? Well, we have 3 British luxury brands looking for American marketing partners who can authentically represent their voice in the US market. Your unique situation has caught their attention. We're talking about campaigns worth 15 to 20 million collectively. My hand tightened on the phone. I'm sorry, could you repeat that figure? 15 to 20 million. Our clients are particularly interested in someone who can bridge that cultural gap naturally. Your accent, combined with your obvious marketing expertise, makes you quite valuable. Jenny was making frantic gestures, mouthing take it. Take it. I'd certainly be interested in learning more, I managed. Excellent. Could you meet tomorrow morning? Say, 10 a.m. at our Manhattan office? Manhattan. As in New York City. As in a 6-hour drive from my little cubicle in suburban Detroit. I'll be there. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence. Jenny was already pulling up flight information on her computer. Sarah, do you realize what just happened? You went from Marcus's punching bag to having PR firms chase you in the span of 4 hours. My second phone rang. Personal this time. Sarah? This is Dr. Patterson. I've been getting some unusual calls about you today. Apparently, several medical journals want to feature your case, and there's a documentary producer who's interested in following your story. I thought you should know before they start contacting you directly. A documentary? Foreign accent syndrome is rare enough, but your particular case, the accent quality, the timing, the complete lack of neurological explanation, it's unprecedented. You might want to consider getting an agent. After he hung up, I stared at my computer screen. The Morrison video conference was in 47 minutes. I had PR firms calling, documentary producers circling, and social media exploding around a medical condition I still didn't understand. And Marcus was nowhere to be seen. Jenny, I said slowly, I think I need to call in sick tomorrow. Why? Because I'm going to New York to become very, very rich. The Morrison video call went better than I had any right to expect. Jim Morrison turned out to be exactly the kind of executive who appreciated directness wrapped in sophistication, and my accent seemed to hit some nostalgic nerve from his London days. I have to say, Sarah, this is the most comprehensive market analysis I've seen in years, he said, leaning back in his chair as I finished walking him through my European expansion framework. Your projections for the UK sustainable packaging market are particularly impressive. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I do believe Morrison Industries is perfectly positioned to capitalize on these emerging opportunities. I clicked to my final slide, hard hammering as I prepared for the biggest gamble of my career. Which is why I'm prepared to offer you an exclusive 6-month partnership agreement, with guaranteed market entry support and regulatory guidance. Exclusive? What exactly does that mean? It means Morrison Industries would have my complete focus and expertise for your European launch. No competing accounts, no divided attention. I paused, letting the weight of the offer sink in. And if we don't achieve at least 8% market penetration within the first year, Pinnacle Marketing will refund 50% of our fees. Jim Morrison's eyebrows shot up. You're that confident? Mr. Morrison, confidence is simply competence dressed for dinner. He laughed, actually laughed, at my ridiculously posh turn of phrase. All right, Sarah. You've got a deal. When can you start? Immediately. I'll have a formal proposal to you by Monday morning. After we hung up, I sat in the empty conference room trying to process what had just happened. I'd not only saved face after my morning lie, I'd potentially landed the biggest account of my career. The Morrison deal alone would be worth at least $4.2 million over 18 months, exactly what I'd claimed in front of the entire office. My triumph lasted exactly 37 seconds. Marcus burst through the conference room door with the fury of a man whose entire world was crumbling. Behind him trailed Patricia Wells and two people I didn't recognize, a woman in an expensive suit and a man with a legal pad. There she is, Marcus snarled. Our little social media sensation. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've secured the Morrison Industries account, if that's what you're asking. You've made our company a laughingstock. He thrust his phone at me. The TikTok video was still climbing, now at 2.3 million views. Clients are calling asking if we employ the accent lady. Our competitors are making memes about us. The Westfield Group just asked if all our presentations come with entertainment value. Patricia cleared her throat. Sarah, I'd like you to meet Amanda Cross from our legal department and David Kim from HR. We need to discuss your situation. My stomach dropped. What kind of discussion? Amanda opened her leather portfolio with practiced efficiency. We've been reviewing your employment contract, particularly the clauses regarding public representation of the company and unauthorized media exposure. Unauthorized? I didn't authorize anything. Someone recorded Marcus's meeting and posted it without my knowledge. But you're actively engaging with the attention, David added, consulting his legal pad. We've received reports that you took meetings with outside PR firms during work hours, using company resources. One phone call. From our phones, during company time, while claiming to represent Pinnacle's interests, Marcus interrupted triumphantly. That's a clear violation of your exclusivity agreement. Amanda nodded grimly. We're also concerned about the Morrison account. Without proper oversight and approval, you've potentially exposed the company to liability issues. The account that's worth $4.2 million? I couldn't keep the incredulity out of my voice, even wrapped in cut glass consonants. An account you obtained under false pretenses, Marcus shot back. Claiming credentials and authority you don't possess. Patricia held up her hand for silence. Sarah, here's what's going to happen. You're going to take a leave of absence while we sort out the legal and PR implications of your situation. Marcus will handle the Morrison transition. Absolutely not. The words came out sharper than I'd intended, but I was done being pushed around. Mr. Morrison requested me specifically. The account is mine. The account belongs to Pinnacle Marketing, Amanda said coldly. As does any intellectual property you developed while employed here. Including your European market research. My research. 6 months of work, countless hours of analysis, all of it about to be handed over to Marcus like a gift-wrapped promotion. You can't do this. Actually, we can, David said, not unkindly. Your contract is very explicit about these issues. Marcus was practically glowing with satisfaction. Don't worry, Sarah. I'll take good care of your little Morrison project. Though I might need to apologize for any confusion about British market expertise. That's when I realized something crucial. They were so focused on containing the damage from my viral fame that they hadn't considered what I might do with it. Fine, I said, standing with as much dignity as I could muster. I'll clear out my desk. Sarah, Patricia said, her tone softening slightly, this doesn't have to be permanent. Once things settle down. Once you've stolen my work and destroyed my credibility, you mean? I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Marcus? You might want to call Mr. Morrison personally. Explain the transition. I'm sure he'll be absolutely delighted to hear that his internationally sophisticated contact has been replaced. The look of sudden uncertainty that crossed his face was almost worth everything else. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in my Honda Civic in the parking garage, staring at my phone as notifications continued to explode across my screen. The reality of what had just happened was starting to sink in. I'd been effectively fired from a job I'd held for 4 years, watching Marcus steal the biggest account I'd ever developed, all while becoming an accidental internet celebrity. My phone rang. Rebecca Thornton from the PR firm. Sarah, darling, I've been watching the news about your situation at Pinnacle. How are you holding up? They've just placed me on indefinite leave and handed my account to my boss. I tried to keep the bitterness out of my voice, but even my frustration sounded elegant now. I'm not entirely certain how to proceed. Actually, this might be the best thing that could have happened. Are you free to talk? I have nothing but time at the moment. Perfect. I've been fielding calls about you all afternoon. The documentary producer wants to offer you a development deal. There's a British cosmetics company that wants you as their North American spokesperson. And get this, the BBC reached out. They want to interview you for a segment about medical mysteries. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. The BBC? Sarah, you've become a phenomenon. Hashtag British Sarah is trending worldwide. People are making compilation videos of you speaking. Someone started a petition to get you your own talk show. Rebecca's excitement was palpable. But here's the really interesting part. I got a call from Morrison Industries about an hour ago. My heart stopped. What did they say? Apparently, Jim Morrison is quite upset about losing his British consultant. He's threatening to pull the account unless Pinnacle can guarantee you'll remain the primary contact. Patricia Wells has been trying to reach you for 30 minutes. I checked my missed calls. 7 from Patricia, 4 from numbers I didn't recognize, and 1 from my mother in Idaho asking why strangers were messaging her on Facebook about her famous daughter. Rebecca, what exactly are you proposing? Independence, darling. Your own consultancy. With your viral fame and that Morrison account as leverage, you could launch with more visibility than agencies spend millions trying to achieve. She paused. I've already had 3 British companies ask if you're available for freelance work. My other line beeped. Patricia Wells. Rebecca, I need to take this call. But let's schedule that meeting for tomorrow morning. Brilliant. And Sarah? Don't let them bully you into giving up what's yours. I switched lines. Patricia. Sarah, thank God. We need to talk. Morrison is furious about the transition, and frankly, we can't afford to lose this account. I'm on leave, remember? Perhaps you should discuss this with Marcus. Cut the bullshit, Sarah. We both know Marcus couldn't sell water to someone dying of thirst. Morrison wants you, and right now, you have something we need. I could hear the desperation creeping into her voice. Patricia Wells, the woman who just watched Marcus orchestrate my professional execution, was now begging me to save their largest potential contract. What are you offering? Full reinstatement. Senior account executive promotion. 15% commission on the Morrison deal. Counteroffer, I said, surprised by my own boldness. Senior partner track, 25% commission, and a written guarantee that Marcus has no involvement with my accounts. Sarah, that's completely unreasonable. Patricia, I'm trending on 3 social media platforms, I have documentary producers calling me, and the BBC wants an interview. Unreasonable is my new baseline. I paused, letting that sink in. Oh, and I want my own office. With a window. The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds. I'll need to discuss this with the board. You have until 5 o'clock. After that, I'm exploring other opportunities. I hung up and immediately called Jim Morrison's direct line. Morrison Industries. Mr. Morrison, this is Sarah Mitchell. I believe we need to have a rather important conversation. Sarah, I was wondering when you'd call. Jim Morrison's voice carried a mixture of amusement and irritation. I just got off the phone with your boss, former boss, and she's telling me there's been some kind of personnel shuffle. Care to explain what the hell is going on over there? I took a deep breath, watching office workers stream past my car windows as the afternoon shift change began. Mr. Morrison, I'm afraid Pinnacle Marketing has decided that my recent medical situation makes me unsuitable for client-facing roles. Your medical situation? You mean the accent? He snorted. Sarah, I spent 2 years in London. Half the consultants I worked with sounded exactly like you, and they charge triple what American firms do. If anything, that accent makes you more qualified, not less. I'm delighted you feel that way, sir. However, Pinnacle seems to believe that my condition constitutes some sort of liability. Well, that's the stupidest goddamn thing I've heard all week, and I've been in meetings with lawyers since Tuesday. Papers rustled in the background. Let me ask you something, are you planning to stay with Pinnacle? The question hung between us like a loaded gun. This was it, the moment that would determine whether I spent the next 5 years watching Marcus take credit for my work, or whether I took the biggest professional gamble of my life. Honestly, Mr. Morrison, I'm exploring my options. Good. Because I've got a proposition for you. His tone shifted to pure business. Morrison Industries has been looking to work directly with smaller, specialized consultancies. More flexibility, better attention, less corporate bureaucracy. Sound interesting? My heart started racing. It sounds very interesting indeed. Here's what I'm thinking, we pilot the European expansion project as a direct partnership. You set up your own firm, and Morrison becomes your anchor client. 18-month contract, 5.2 million total value, with performance bonuses that could push it to 6.8 million if you hit the market penetration targets we discussed. I nearly dropped my phone. That was more than twice what the Pinnacle deal would have been worth, and it would be entirely mine. Mr. Morrison, that's an extraordinarily generous offer, but I should mention that I've never run my own consultancy. Sarah, you just presented the most comprehensive market analysis my team has seen in 3 years. You clearly know what you're doing. He paused. Besides, I've got a good feeling about this whole situation. Sometimes the best opportunities come from the most unexpected circumstances. My phone buzzed with another call. Patricia Wells, probably wondering why Morrison was dodging her attempts to schedule a transition meeting. Mr. Morrison, I would need approximately 2 weeks to establish the proper business framework. Take a month. We'll do a soft launch in December, full campaign rollout in January. I could hear him typing in the background. I'll have my legal team draw up a letter of intent by Monday. Think you can handle being your own boss? Through my car window, I watched Marcus emerge from the Pinnacle building, phone pressed to his ear, gesticulating wildly. Probably talking to Patricia about damage control, or maybe fielding questions about the viral video that now had 3.2 million views. Mr. Morrison, I believe I'm about to find out. After we hung up, I sat in my car for another 10 minutes, trying to process the magnitude of what had just happened. This morning I'd been Sarah Mitchell, marketing executive with a mysterious accent. Now I was potentially Sarah Mitchell, CEO of her own consultancy with a $6.8 million client. My phone rang again. Rebecca Thornton. Darling, please tell me you didn't take Pinnacle's counteroffer. I didn't take anyone's offer yet. But I think I'm about to make the most terrifying decision of my life. Excellent. Terror means you're thinking big enough. By Thursday evening, I was sitting in my apartment surrounded by legal documents, business registration forms, and 3 different laptops borrowed from friends, trying to figure out how to become a CEO overnight while fielding calls from reporters, talent agents, and what appeared to be every British expatriate in North America. The BBC interview had been scheduled for Friday morning. The documentary crew wanted to start filming Monday. And Rebecca Thornton had just emailed me a client list that read like a who's who of British luxury brands, all requesting meetings within the next 2 weeks. This is absolutely mental, I muttered to myself, then winced. Even my private thoughts had gone full Downton Abbey. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenny. Marcus just called an emergency staff meeting. Word is Morrison pulled the account entirely. Patricia's been locked in her office making calls all afternoon. Also, someone leaked that TikTok video to Good Morning America. You're going to be on national television tomorrow whether you want to be or not asterisk. I stared at the message, my stomach dropping. Good Morning America meant millions of viewers, which meant the story would explode beyond social media into mainstream news. My quiet life in suburban Detroit was about to become very, very public. Before I could process that fully, my doorbell rang. I peered through the peephole to see a delivery driver holding an enormous bouquet of white roses and what looked like a bottle of champagne. The card read, "To new beginnings and brilliant partnerships. Looking forward to working with Mitchell International Consulting. Jim Morrison." Mitchell International Consulting. He'd already named my company. I was pouring myself a glass of the champagne, Veuve Clicquot, because apparently my life had upgraded to expensive French champagne, when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Sarah Mitchell speaking. Is this the famous British Sarah? The voice was warm, amused, and distinctly, actually British. This is James Whitmore from Whitmore and Associates in London. We represent several luxury brands looking to expand into American markets. Yes, this is Sarah. Though I should clarify, I'm not actually British. Oh, we know exactly who you are, love. Half of London's been watching your videos since yesterday. Brilliant bit of theater with your boss, by the way. Absolute tosser. He chuckled. Listen, I'm calling because we have a rather unusual proposition. 3 of our clients, Ashworth Timepieces, Pemberton Luxury Goods, and Hastings and Company, Bespoke Tailoring, are interested in retaining your services for their American expansion. That's very flattering, but I should mention that I literally started my consultancy about 6 hours ago. Which is precisely why this works. They don't want some massive agency that'll bury them in bureaucracy. They want someone who understands both markets intimately. Papers rustled in the background. We're talking about a combined initial investment of $8.2 million, Sarah. 18-month contracts, renewable based on performance. I nearly choked on my champagne. Combined with the Morrison deal, that would put me at nearly $15 million in first-year contracts. Yesterday, I'd been making $62,000 a year plus benefits. Mr. Whitmore, I'm honored by their interest, but surely they'd prefer to work with someone who has more established credentials. Sarah, do you know what's trending on British Twitter right now? Hashtag British Sarah coming home. There's a betting pool at Lloyd's of London about whether you'll relocate to the UK. The Times wants to do a feature story. His tone grew more serious. You've become something of a cultural phenomenon over here. These brands see you as the perfect bridge between American business sensibility and British sophistication. My laptop chimed with another email notification. I glanced at the subject line, BBC America interview request urgent. Mr. Whitmore, this is all moving rather quickly. The best opportunities always do. I'm flying to New York tomorrow morning. Would you be available to meet Saturday afternoon? I'll bring the senior partners from all 3 companies. We can make this official. After hanging up, I walked to my bathroom mirror and stared at my reflection. Same face, same unremarkable brown hair, but something fundamental had shifted. Maybe it was the accent, maybe it was the champagne, or maybe it was the surreal realization that my medical mystery had accidentally launched me into a completely different stratosphere of success. My phone buzzed with one more text, this one from an unknown number, *, saw the videos. This is exactly what you deserve. Watching Marcus panic has been the highlight of my year. Go conquer the world. Patricia Wells *. Even my former boss was rooting for my escape. I raised my champagne glass to my reflection. Well then, Sarah. I suppose we're really doing this. The woman in the mirror smiled back with perfect British composure, and for the first time since Tuesday, I felt like she might actually know what she was doing. Friday morning arrived with the subtlety of a freight train collision. I woke up to 47 missed calls, 312 text messages, and my face plastered across Good Morning America's website with the headline Medical Mystery or Marketing Genius? The accent that broke the internet. My doorbell had been ringing intermittently since 6 a.m., reporters, I assumed, though I'd stopped answering after the 3rd knock. Through my bedroom curtains, I could see news vans lining my quiet suburban street like some sort of media invasion force. My phone buzzed with a call from Rebecca Thornton. Sarah, darling, please tell me you're not planning to hide in your flat all day. Rebecca, there are television crews camped outside my apartment. This has gotten completely out of hand. Out of hand? Sweetheart, this is the best publicity money can't buy. Do you know what your TikTok engagement rates were overnight? Papers rustled enthusiastically. 4.7 million views across all platforms. Hashtag British Sarah is trending in 14 countries. I've had inquiries from Japan, Sarah. Japan wants to work with you. I pulled my curtains back slightly. A woman with a microphone was doing a stand-up report in front of my building, gesticulating toward my windows. This is mental, Rebecca. I was supposed to have a quiet medical mystery, not become some sort of international incident. Well, it's too late for quiet now. Which brings me to why I'm calling, we have a problem. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? Marcus Chen has been giving interviews. I sat down heavily on my bed. Oh, bloody hell. It gets worse. He's claiming the entire thing is an elaborate hoax. Says you've been practicing the accent for months, planning to create viral content to launch your own agency. He's provided emails to several news outlets showing your research into British market trends dating back 8 months. The room tilted slightly. My Morrison research, my European expansion analysis, of course it would look suspicious in hindsight. I'd been thorough, maybe too thorough. Rebecca, those emails exist because I was doing my job. Morrison Industries was always interested in international expansion. I know that, and you know that, but Marcus is spinning a narrative about calculated deception. He's scheduled to appear on CNN this afternoon, and Fox Business wants him for their evening segment. My phone started ringing again. Jim Morrison's office number. Rebecca, I need to take this. It's my client. Sarah, wait. I switched lines, my heart hammering. Mr. Morrison? Sarah. His voice was clipped, professional, entirely different from our previous conversations. I think we need to discuss this situation that's developed. Sir, I can explain. I just got off the phone with 3 board members who are very concerned about Morrison Industries being associated with what they're calling a publicity stunt. Your former colleague has been quite vocal about your creative marketing approach. The words hit like ice water. Mr. Morrison, I assure you, my medical condition is completely genuine. The timing may seem convenient, but... Sarah, I want to believe that. I do. But my legal team is asking some hard questions about due diligence, and frankly, the optics aren't great. He paused, and I could hear other voices in the background. We're going to need to put our agreement on hold pending further review. How long of a hold? 2 weeks minimum. Maybe longer, depending on how this media circus plays out. After he hung up, I sat staring at my phone in numb shock. In less than 12 hours, I'd gone from having nearly 15 million in pending contracts to watching my anchor client back away because Marcus had poisoned the well with conspiracy theories. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenny. Asterisk, you need to see this. Marcus is on channel 7 right now. Asterisk. I fumbled for my laptop and pulled up the local news stream. There was Marcus, sitting in the studio with perfect composure, his expensive suit immaculate as always. The timing is simply too convenient, he was saying. Sarah Mitchell spent months researching British business practices, British cultural norms, even British speech patterns. The idea that she suddenly wakes up from routine surgery speaking like the Queen of England? It strains credibility. The anchor leaned forward. Are you suggesting Ms. Mitchell faked a medical condition? I'm suggesting that Sarah is a very ambitious woman who found herself stuck in a mid-level position with limited prospects. Creating a viral sensation around a mysterious accent? That's exactly the kind of innovative thinking that makes her good at marketing. My doorbell rang again, more insistently this time. Through the peephole, I could see a man in a network blazer holding a microphone. Ms. Mitchell? This is David Chen from NBC News. We'd love to get your side of the story. Chen. Marcus's brother, apparently. The conspiracy was getting more elaborate by the hour. I was trapped in my own apartment, watching my reputation get systematically destroyed by a man who'd spent 3 years stealing credit for my work, and now my medical mystery was being reframed as an elaborate fraud. My phone rang one more time. James Whitmore from London. Sarah, I've been watching the American news coverage. We need to talk. James, I'm afraid this might not be the best time. On the contrary, this is exactly the right time. His voice carried the kind of calm authority that made me stop pacing around my living room. I've just finished a rather interesting conversation with a colleague at the London School of Medicine. Dr. Elizabeth Harrington, she specializes in neurological speech disorders. I sank onto my couch, watching another news van pull up outside. Let me guess, she thinks I'm a fraud too? Actually, quite the opposite. She's been following your case since the initial social media coverage, and she's rather excited about it. Apparently, your particular presentation of foreign accent syndrome is textbook perfect, too perfect, according to her analysis. I don't understand what you mean. Sarah, most cases of FAS result in inconsistent accent adoption. Patients slip in and out of the acquired accent, especially under stress. But you? You've maintained perfect consistency across dozens of video clips, even when being ambushed by that tosser Marcus. Papers rustled in the background. Dr. Harrington believes your case might represent a completely new neurological phenomenon. She wants to study you. My laptop chimed with another email notification. The subject line made my blood freeze. Pinnacle Marketing Legal Department, cease and desist notice. James, I need to put you on hold for just a moment. I opened the email with trembling fingers. The legal document was dense with corporate jargon, but the essential message was crystal clear. Pinnacle was claiming ownership of my European market research, my Morrison Industries contact relationship, and any business opportunities derived from proprietary work completed during my employment. They were demanding I cease all independent consulting activities and return any confidential materials. At the bottom, Marcus's signature appeared as a consulting witness to the intellectual property claims. Bloody bastard, I muttered, then immediately put James back on the line. James? I'm afraid this situation has become rather more complicated. Legal troubles? Pinnacle is claiming ownership of my work. They're trying to prevent me from starting my own consultancy. I walked to my window, watching reporters multiply like rabbits outside my building. And frankly, with Marcus poisoning every well he can find, I'm not certain I'll have any clients left to fight for. That's where you're wrong. James's tone shifted to something sharper, more calculating. I've spent the morning fielding calls from British companies who are absolutely fascinated by this entire debacle. 3 more firms want to retain you, specifically because of the controversy. Because of it? Sarah, you've become a symbol. The American woman who developed a mysterious British accent and used it to escape corporate oppression? That's narrative gold. My clients don't care if your accent is neurologically genuine or psychologically induced. They care that you're brilliant at what you do, and you've proven you can generate unprecedented media attention. Another email popped up on my screen. This one from Dr. Patterson. Sarah, I've been contacted by several medical journals and research institutions. The attention on your case is extraordinary. Would you be willing to participate in a comprehensive study? There could be significant compensation involved. James, exactly how many companies are we talking about? As of this morning? 7. Combined initial contracts worth approximately $12.8 million. He paused for effect. All contingent on one thing. Which is? You need to come to London. Next week. We're organizing what we're calling the British Sarah Summit, presentations to all interested parties, medical consultations with Dr. Harrington, and a proper media strategy to counter this fraud narrative. I stared out at the circus surrounding my apartment building. Channel 4 had just arrived, adding to the collection of news vans. My quiet suburban street looked like a presidential assassination had occurred. James, I can't even leave my flat without being mobbed by reporters. How exactly am I supposed to get to London? Leave that to us. I have some experience managing high-profile situations. His smile was audible through the phone. Pack for a week, Sarah. By the time we're finished, Marcus Chin will wish he'd never heard your name. My doorbell rang again, followed by insistent knocking. Ms. Mitchell. This is Rachel Torres from the Washington Post. We have some questions about your former employer's allegations. I looked at my reflection in the black laptop screen, disheveled, exhausted, trapped in my own home by the success I'd accidentally created. James, when do we leave? The private car James arranged picked me up at 4:17 a.m. Sunday morning, slipping through my apartment complex's back entrance while the news crews dozed in their vans out front. By 6:45 a.m., I was boarding a British Airways flight to Heathrow, tucked away in first class under the name S. Elizabeth Montgomery, apparently James's idea of humor. Somewhere over the Atlantic, sipping champagne that cost more than my monthly car payment, I finally allowed myself to process the magnitude of what was happening. My phone, mercifully set to airplane mode, contained 847 unread messages. The flight attendant had discreetly mentioned that hashtag British Sarah Goes Home was trending worldwide, complete with flight tracking speculation and betting pools about which London hotel I'd choose. Completely barking mad, I muttered, earning an approving smile from the elderly British gentleman across the aisle. The real shock came when we landed at Heathrow. James had warned me there might be some media interest, but nothing prepared me for the scrum of photographers and reporters waiting at arrivals. British tabloid headlines flashed through the crowd like neon signs, "The Yank Who Stole Our Accent," and "Mysterious Sarah Comes Home." James Whitmore materialized beside me like a well-dressed guardian angel, tall, silver-haired, and projecting the kind of unflappable confidence that probably came standard with an Oxbridge education. "Sarah, welcome to London." Tried to look mysterious but approachable, he murmured, guiding me through the chaos with practiced efficiency. "The car's just outside." 23 minutes later, we were sitting in his Mayfair office, a temple of British sophistication complete with leather-bound books and oil paintings of dead aristocrats. James poured tea from an actual silver service while I tried to wrap my head around the view of Hyde Park stretching beyond his windows. "Right, let's address the elephant in the room," he said, settling into his chair with characteristic directness. Marcus Chan's fraud allegations have gained serious traction in American media. CNN ran a 30-minute segment yesterday questioning the authenticity of your condition. My stomach clenched. How damaging. Well, the good news is that British media has taken the opposite approach. The Times ran an editorial this morning calling the American response typically paranoid and suggesting that Marcus represents everything wrong with corporate culture. He slid a newspaper across the desk. The Guardian's headline was even better: "Accent Truthers and the American Fear of Sophisticated Women." I scanned the article, hardly believing my eyes. British press had essentially adopted me as their own, framing the controversy as a transatlantic culture war with me as the unlikely protagonist. James, this is surreal. 3 days ago, I was hiding in my apartment. Now I'm apparently some sort of international symbol? Symbol, victim, marketing genius, medical mystery, you're all of those things simultaneously. Which brings us to tomorrow's schedule. He pulled out an iPad, scrolling through what looked like a presidential itinerary. 9 a.m. medical consultation with Dr. Harrington at the London School of Medicine. 11 a.m. BBC Radio 4 interview. 2 p.m. presentations to the Ashworth Group. 4 p.m. meeting with Pemberton's board of directors. Christ, James. And 7 p.m. dinner with Lord Pemberton himself, followed by what the Telegraph is calling the most anticipated business networking event of the year. He looked up with obvious satisfaction. 47 British executives want to meet you, Sarah. The controversy hasn't hurt your prospects, it's made you the most sought-after consultant in London. My phone buzzed with a WhatsApp message from Rebecca Thornton, *, holy shit Sarah, Morrison Industries just called. Jim Morrison fired Marcus's brother from their advisory board and wants to reinstate your contract. Says the British press coverage convinced him you're the real deal. Can you call ASAP, *? I showed James the message. His grin could have powered half of Mayfair. It appears your former colleague's strategy has backfired rather spectacularly, he said. Nothing validates authenticity quite like British approval, at least from an American business perspective. Outside his windows, London hummed with ancient authority and modern ambition. Somewhere across the Atlantic, Marcus was probably discovering that his attempt to destroy my credibility had accidentally made me more valuable than ever. James, I said, raising my teacup in a mock toast, I think this is going to be a very interesting week indeed. Tuesday morning brought what James cheerfully described as a proper British catastrophe over breakfast at Claridge's. I was halfway through the most expensive eggs Benedict of my life when he slid his phone across the white linen tablecloth with the expression of someone delivering a terminal diagnosis. Sarah, you need to see this immediately. The Daily Mail's headline screamed across his screen, "Fake accent Sarah's secret shame, exclusive video evidence." Below it was a grainy security camera footage that made my blood turn to ice water. It showed me, clear as day, in Morrison Industries' Cleveland lobby 8 months ago, speaking in perfectly normal American accent to the receptionist while dropping off marketing materials. "Oh, bloody hell," I whispered, then immediately winced at how natural the British profanity sounded. It gets worse. James scrolled down to reveal more footage, me at a Starbucks near Pinnacle's office, me at a Detroit networking event, me presenting to a client 3 months ago. All speaking in my original Idaho-inflected American accent, all timestamped, all completely damning. Where did they get this? Marcus, presumably. He's been quite busy since you left the country. James's jaw tightened as he continued scrolling. He's given exclusive interviews to 4 British tabloids, provided what he calls extensive evidence of your deception, and he's flying to London this afternoon for a live BBC Newsnight appearance. My phone exploded with notifications. WhatsApp messages from Rebecca, missed calls from Jim Morrison, text from numbers I didn't recognize. The carefully constructed narrative of my mysterious medical condition was crumbling in real time, broadcast to millions of people who'd spent 3 days defending my authenticity. James, this is a disaster. Lord Pemberton's dinner is tonight. Has been cancelled. Along with the Ashworth presentation, the BBC radio interview, and approximately half of your scheduled meetings. He signaled the waiter for more coffee with the weary efficiency of someone managing multiple crises. Dr. Harrington from the medical school called at 6 a.m. She's withdrawing her research proposal pending clarification of the factual circumstances. I stared at the security footage playing on loop, watching my past self cheerfully chatting in flawlessly American English while unknowingly providing evidence for my future destruction. The irony was suffocating. I'd been so thorough in my Morrison Industries research that I'd created a perfect paper trail of pre-accent interactions. How many clients are we talking about losing? James consulted his phone grimly. 4 confirmed withdrawals since 7 a.m. 3 more are reassessing their position. Pemberton's people use the phrase reputational risk assessment, which is corporate speak for absolutely not. The elegant breakfast room around us suddenly felt like a gilded prison. Other diners were glancing in my direction with a kind of recognition that suggested my face was plastered across every British front page. A woman at the corner table was surreptitiously filming me with her phone. Morrison Industries? I asked, dreading the answer. Jim Morrison wants a conference call at 2 p.m. London time. His exact words were, "This better have a bloody good explanation." James paused, stirring his coffee with mechanical precision. Sarah, I need to ask you directly, is any part of your condition genuine? Because if we're going to salvage this situation, I need to know exactly what we're working with. I met his eyes across the pristine white table, surrounded by the wreckage of the most spectacular professional rise and fall in recent memory. The truth was, I genuinely didn't know anymore. The accent felt completely natural now, as automatic as breathing. But the medical tests had been inconclusive, and the timing really was impossibly convenient. James, I said carefully, I honestly don't know if I'm a fraud or a medical miracle. But I'm about to find out which story sells better. The Morrison Industries conference call at 2 p.m. was a masterclass in corporate execution. Jim Morrison's voice crackled through James's office speakers with the warmth of a January morning in Cleveland. Sarah, I'm going to cut right to the chase. I've got security footage showing you speaking in a normal American accent in my lobby 8 months ago. My board is asking if I've lost my goddamn mind, and frankly, I'm starting to wonder myself. I gripped the leather armrest of James's client chair, watching London traffic crawl past the windows while my career imploded in real time. Mr. Morrison, I understand how this must look. How it looks. Sarah, it looks like I almost gave a $6.8 million contract to someone running an elaborate con game. Papers shuffled aggressively in the background. My legal team spent the morning reviewing every interaction we've had. The accent, the British market expertise, the timing with your viral video, it's all very convenient. James leaned forward, activating his diplomatic voice. Mr. Morrison, this is James Whitmore from London. Perhaps we could discuss the substantive quality of Sarah's work, regardless of the circumstances. Mr. Whitmore, the work is excellent. That's what makes this whole situation so frustrating. Morrison's tone shifted slightly. Sarah clearly knows what she's doing from a strategic standpoint. But I can't have Morrison Industries associated with what CNN is calling the biggest marketing hoax since New Coke. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. * Marcus just landed at Heathrow. BBC confirmed him for tonight's Newsnight. He's bringing a briefcase full of evidence. We need to move fast. *. Mr. Morrison, I interrupted, desperation creeping into my voice despite my best efforts. What if I could prove the medical legitimacy of my condition? The line went quiet for nearly 15 seconds. How exactly would you do that? I looked at James, who was frantically scribbling notes on his legal pad. Dr. Elizabeth Harrington at the London School of Medicine was planning a comprehensive neurological study before recent developments. What if we expedited that process? Full medical transparency, independent verification. You're talking about subjecting yourself to extensive medical testing? Publicly? If that's what it takes to restore confidence in our partnership, then yes. The words came out steadier than I felt. Complete neurological workup, brain imaging, psychological evaluation, everything documented and peer-reviewed. James was shaking his head violently, drawing a finger across his throat in the universal stop-talking gesture. But Morrison's interest was clearly piqued. That's actually not a terrible idea. How long would something like that take? Dr. Harrington estimated a week for comprehensive testing, another week for initial analysis. I was improvising desperately now. Results could be released simultaneously to medical journals and business press. And if the tests show you're faking? The question hung in the air like a sword. If sophisticated medical testing proved my accent was psychosomatic or deliberately adopted, it wouldn't just destroy my consulting business, it would make me a global laughingstock, the subject of case studies in business schools for decades. Then you'll have definitive proof that I'm a fraud, and you can terminate our agreement with complete justification. But if the tests confirm a genuine neurological condition? Then Morrison Industries becomes the first major corporation to partner with the most medically fascinating marketing consultant in modern business history. James was staring at me with the expression of someone watching a lemming approach a cliff. Outside his windows, London continued its ancient rhythm, oblivious to my Hail Mary attempt to save a career built on mysterious medical circumstances. Morrison was quiet for another long moment. Sarah, that's either the stupidest thing I've ever heard, or the most brilliant. I'll give you 10 days to get your medical evidence together. But I want daily updates, and if this goes sideways, Morrison Industries never heard your name. After he hung up, James leaned back in his chair with visible exhaustion. Sarah, you've just wagered your entire future on medical tests that might prove you're an unconscious fraud. I know, I replied, already reaching for my phone to call Dr. Harrington. Completely mental, isn't it? Dr. Harrington's medical team worked with the efficiency of a Formula One pit crew. By Thursday morning, I'd been subjected to 3 MRI scans, 2 CT scans, neurological mapping, psychological evaluation, and enough blood draws to supply a small vampire colony. The BBC had been granted unprecedented access to film the testing process, turning my medical mystery into appointment television. The results came back Friday afternoon while Marcus was mid-interview with Jeremy Paxman on Newsnight, explaining to half of Britain why I was a calculating fraud. Sarah, Dr. Harrington said, her voice carrying barely contained excitement as cameras rolled, I've never seen anything quite like this. Your accent isn't psychological or deliberately acquired, it's neurological, but not in any way we'd previously documented. James gripped my hand as she continued, the gallbladder surgery triggered an extremely rare neurological event. Essentially, the anesthesia caused a temporary rewiring of your language processing centers. You're not mimicking a British accent, your brain is now genuinely processing English through what we might call acquired linguistic pathways. So I'm not faking it? My dear, you couldn't fake this if you tried. Your brain scans show permanent structural changes consistent with bilingual speakers, except you developed dual processing for the same language with different accent patterns. She turned to the camera. This represents an entirely new category of neurological linguistics. Across London, Marcus's interview was apparently going very badly. The vindication was swift and absolute. Morrison Industries reinstated our contract within 6 hours, increasing it to $7.2 million after what Jim Morrison called the most brilliant authenticity verification in corporate history. The British companies that had fled came crawling back, joined by 12 new prospects who wanted to work with the woman who proved her own medical miracle on live television. By Sunday, #VindicateDSarah was trending in 23 countries. Marcus had gone completely silent, his social media accounts deleted, his LinkedIn profile mysteriously vanished. Jenny texted that he'd submitted his resignation to Pinnacle via email from parts unknown. The final twist came Tuesday morning. Pinnacle Marketing, facing catastrophic PR damage from Marcus's failed character assassination, offered me a senior partnership and complete control over international accounts. Patricia Wells delivered the offer personally during my BBC Radio 4 interview. Miss Wells, I said, my accent perfectly crisp over the airwaves. I appreciate the offer, but I'm rather busy building Mitchell International Consulting into London's premier transatlantic marketing firm. Sarah, we could offer you unprecedented compensation. More than the $15 million in first-year contracts I've already secured independently? I smiled at the radio presenter, who was clearly enjoying the live drama. I'm afraid I've moved beyond what Pinnacle can provide. 3 months later, I was splitting my time between London and Manhattan, representing 17 British companies in American markets while maintaining my mysterious status as the world's only neurologically authenticated accent consultant. The documentary about my case had been optioned by Netflix. Dr. Harrington's research paper was being published in 3 medical journals simultaneously. And Marcus? Last I heard, he was working at a mid-tier agency in Phoenix, as far from international marketing as geography allowed. The accent had become permanent. Dr. Harrington confirmed that the neurological changes were irreversible. But sitting in my new Mayfair office, reviewing contracts worth more than I'd ever imagined possible, I found I didn't mind at all. Sometimes the most extraordinary opportunities really do come from the most unexpected circumstances. Even when those circumstances involve waking up speaking like the Queen after routine gallbladder surgery. Absolutely brilliant, I murmured to myself, and meant every impossibly posh syllable.